afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining from today. Thank you for joining our weekly live discussion here today. This is part of our weekly Transformation Ground Control podcast series. If you don't watch Transformation Ground Control, or if you haven't heard of that podcast, it's a weekly podcast we publish each Wednesday, and we do these live interviews as part of that podcast every Tuesday. So the interview we're going to have here today will be released with the podcast episode that gets released a week from tomorrow, so Wednesday of next week. Will be the episode that features this interview. And today's interview topic is from mechanic to tech pioneer in Israel. So we have a guest with us joining us from Tel Aviv, Israel. And we'll get to the introduction here in just a moment. I was actually supposed to be in person in Tel Aviv this week, but due to obvious global situations, I'm not in Israel this week. I'm not able to travel there, but we decided to continue with the conversation anyway. We'd just do it from two different locations. So I'm excited for our guest here in just a moment. I'll introduce him in just a moment as well. But the topic at hand is from mechanic to tech pioneer in Israel. It's really a story of one person's journey from starting off in a blue collar sort of a role and then moving into technology. And we'll talk about his journey in his career and also just some of his philosophies and how it's shaped some of his philosophies around technology and the work he's done in the technology space. One other logistical thing before we introduce our guest is if you have questions or comments, please drop those in the chat at any point along the way. We will be getting to those questions here very quickly. So as we see questions come in, we'll start to pull questions from the audience. I have all the chat streams right in front of me, whatever platform you're listening or watching on today, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. I see all the stream here today with all the chat. So be sure to drop your questions in the chat. And speaking of the chat, if you don't mind just dropping in the chat where in the world you're joining from today, what city and country are you in? We tend to have a global audience in these weekly discussions, so I'd love to see where everyone's from. And certainly my guest and I here today are on two different continents and two very different parts of the world, and many of you might be in different parts of the world as well. So I'd love to hear what city and country you're from. So please drop that in the chat if you don't mind. So again, topic here today from mechanic to tech pioneer in Israel. And joining me today is Eyal Katz from Priority Software. Eyal, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
So first of all, before we get started, maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself and about the company you founded, which is called Soft Solutions, which was then acquired by Priority Software. So maybe tell me a little bit, just at a high level, about your background and a little bit about you.
Well, first of all, I'm 50 years old. I think I started about 30 years ago, back when I was in the Army. So it was a long journey, actually. I started by mistake in the Army. I'll talk about the coincidence of that. And then I founded a company that was doing software for business companies, transformed to another company that went for medical software. And then after that, I founded Soft Solutions, first as a software house that does projects, going on from projects and moving to products, and then from products moving into a platform. And at the end of the story, as you said, doing a lot of projects with Priority, creating the add-ons for Priority, and then at the end of the day, Priority acquires Soft Solutions, and now we're happy to be part of Priority Software. That is the major, most common ERP in Israel, and of course in many places in the world too.
Right. Yeah, and we're going to get into that too, talk a little bit about Priority and what Priority does and some of your philosophies on technology in general. But before I jump into my questions, maybe just to sort of off topic a little bit, but on a lot of people's minds right now is certainly your safety is of interest to us. But how are things going in Tel Aviv right now? Everyone's staying safe and out of harm's way for the time being?
Yeah, Tel Aviv is in the center district. Things are, pretty normal over here, as normal as it can get. And here in Priority offices, most of the people are coming to work. We're trying to continue, business continuity. And people are basically coming over here. And I think coming to work is a very important thing now because we want to keep the economy up and running. And then people, when they come to work, this is what they're on their mind and they don't think about other stuff. So I think it's very important for people, to get out of the homes and continue business as usual, support the customers, and just continue living the life as let's say as regular as possible.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, good. Well, I appreciate that you're safe and that everyone is okay there with you and your team. Just as a quick side note, I hate to say this, but I'm already seeing some political comments in the chat. I will not address those. I'm not here to talk about any of the political underpinnings here, so I'm not going to address those. I'm not going to get to those questions. So if anyone has comments and that sort of thing about the rightness or wrongness of the war, that's not what I'm here to talk about. So just to get that out on the table here. Now, I do want to maybe just to set the stage. This whole story is interesting because you have sort of a non-traditional background. You didn't come up the typical career path. You didn't go to college, and then we were talking right before the podcast about how you did not go to college, go to an entry-level job, move your way up, the corporate ranks that way. You took a slightly different path. Maybe tell us about how you started out and how you ended up in the tech space.
Well, I think it was back when I was actually 16 years old, and I wanted a motorcycle, and my parents didn't want me to get a motorcycle, so I was at school, and the only way I could get it was drop out of school, come to work in a motorcycle shop, and actually get a motorcycle from there. Then I can start, I think, back then as an entrepreneur when I said, okay, you know what? I studied how to fix engines, and I opened my own shop and started fixing lawnmowers and chainsaws and stuff like that, and was making pretty decent money as a teenager. So moving forward, in Israel, after you hit 18 years old, you're drafted to the army. So I started in the army and got to this ammunition base that was actually, I was supposed to handle, let's say, the ammunition in the bunkers and stuff like that. And there was a computer system over there. And it was kind of, boring over there. There's nothing too much to do. So I tried to actually make the system work, but it didn't work. So what actually I did was purchase the book of the programming language that was written and studied the language. And, like a motor. And the way I learned to teach myself is by, assembly and disassembly, like trial and error. So I actually start trial and error. And we wrote a new application for handling inventory and stock for the Army. So a bunch of generals came to see how everything became digitized. They said, okay, if you have this talent, then why not use it for other stuff? And I said, okay. Then I want my own job, and I want to go to this specific courses in an R&D unit, and said, everything you want, you can have. And this did the transformation from, just being a regular soldier to do R&D stuff and pushing the software I created for the Army, and even continued it in the reserves. So that's like the Army phase.
Right.
The next thing that was supposed to happen was I was supposed to get discharged, or getting out of my 3 years that was mandatory. And then they told me, okay, what am I going to do now? I dropped out of high school. I needed to complete my SATs, go to college. It's going to take me 5 years. So the reasonable thing to do back then was, you know what? Maybe I should start my own business, my own software house. And this will give me the opportunity to do the shortcut. Don't go through the 5 years of education and then start from the bottom and build yourself up. Just start from just start as an entrepreneur, open a company, and nobody will ask your credentials. Right. I'll just take any job there is there. I'll come to a company and say, what do you need? And it said, no problem. Everything, give me a few days and I'll come up with a solution. And this is the way I started to grow the business, started getting into more projects, and so on. So this is let's say the first stages of how I got to the technology.
Okay. Now, is that you started your software company right after you left the military? Did you go straight to start your own company? Okay. So that's you sort of created your own path or your own career. That's an interesting and a smart way to handle it. Very interesting. So it sounds like it started from a continuous improvement mindset. You were trying to fix a problem that existed in the military or opportunities for improvement that you saw, and then that sort of led to you going down the path of technology. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know too much back then. I remember the first I came to this major company in the food industry, and they'll say, we need a program, we need an application, an EIS application for our managers. And I said, we needed to do it in Visual Basic back then. I said, no problem. Later on, I just looked up what is an EIS system. I didn't even know what they were talking about.
Right.
So yeah, again, I started to learn Visual Basic at the moment I got the sales order or the purchase order back then. And after a month or two, I came with the product, and that's how I won the tender and continued to the next step.
Okay. So you didn't have a specific software solution in mind when you started the company. You were just starting a company that could solve problems, and you would go seek out the opportunities to solve those problems, and then you would build a technology that solved the problem. Is that was that your mindset at the time when you started it?
Yeah, I remember I had a motorcycle. I print out, business cards. I would go to 100 business places, companies, leave my business card. Out of 100, one came back. And each time I would get a project like that. The next leap I had was I actually had a doctor from oncology department that was looking for a software for managing the department, with what we call computerized patient records. And so I met with her and I said, okay, let's start to do something. And every meeting, we do the analysis and there's more and more needs. And I say, okay, this is something, it's not scalable. And for each department, it's something else. I have to invent something new, think out of the box. And this is when I went with the idea of building questionnaires. A questionnaire that will give the option to build a system that can work in every department, because every head of a department can build his own questionnaires in the the checklist they're doing for patients, and then each department will get his own database with it whatever he needs, and then it went viral. Like many hospitals, let's say government hospitals, started acquiring the software. It was the first product actually, and then one of the CIOs of one of the major hospitals in Israel said, "You know what? This is very brilliant. Nobody has done it before. Let's become partners." And this is the first time I actually sold 49% of my company. Back then it was 1996, 1997. And this has got me started, with the concept of thinking about how to do products. And this is how I first thought about how about you do things that are scalable, not doing just projects, doing products. And when you have a product, again, it's selling itself.
So what you made that transition from solving kind of unique one-by-one problems that you were building solutions for. So that project-based mindset, you switched to this product-based mindset. What was the focus of the products at the time? Was there a certain niche or function that you decided that this is the first area that I think has the most opportunity for me to build a company around? Or how did you make that transition?
Yeah, I think the moment I did, the transition of, there's the opportunity, the moments I did the transition to create a product, and I did it for the hospital, I said, I'm going to focus on this specific niche. It's going to be called CPR, EPR, computerized patient records. And it's a need that's all around the world. So this has got me started. And at the end of the day, I think I had the former CIO of this major hospital. I was with her for 3 years. And then I said, okay, this is enough. I don't have I think I majored in all the section of EPR, CPR. I said, I need to go to the next stage. And I said, I want to go back to the business, to companies, leaving the healthcare behind. And this is when I did the transition and actually opened Soft Solutions.
Gotcha.
And Soft Solutions started again. I started, getting projects and thinking about how can I create a product. So the first thing, I think it was back in 2002 or 2003, what came out back then was mobile devices with Pocket PC, later on with Windows Mobile. And I said, okay, this is a very nice niche. I think I can do something with it. So I actually started doing stuff for warehouse. And this is where I actually met Priority. For the first time I met them, I was telling them, I know how to do projects for mobile devices. There were no smartphones back then. It was mobile devices only. And what I actually did, I was creating a project for a warehouse. But again, it was doing each time a project. And then I told them, you guys in Priority, you know what? Let's think about a product. And one of the customers, I think, said, we're looking for a WMS system. And this is the first time, I think, the guys in Priority said, you know what? Let's take this concept of creating, not turning from a project to a product. And this is how we generated the WMS system. Party was actually building the back office, and we're building the client side. So doing that, this is the first product we did as an integrated system. This is actually when I thought, you know what? There should be only a single point of truth. What does it mean? It means that there are a lot of third-party products over there. This is like a path. I can either create a third-party product and integrate to multiple ERPs, but it's always going to be a project because there's always the integration project behind the scenes. And I said, okay, let's do now an integrated product. There is no database. There's no synchronization. It's just an add-on on the ERP system. And back then, it was pretty new. Nobody had this option or this solution. So we started selling WMS, and it was like an easy sell. It's an add-on. You give them the license, and it start working. And he said, okay, if we solve this, let's do the full supply chain. So we created another 3 products. One was for sales reps. The other one was for field service, and the last one was for truck drivers. So we had now the full supply chain support, and this was going pretty well. But still, when you're doing a product, the problem is that you're working with customers, and they always bug you with, we need to this modification and this modification. So you create a configurator, doing all kind of best practices. You can configure the system, but at the end of the day, you're always, you're running around your tail. You're trying to, serve the customers. So this is when I said it's not scalable. I need to bring something more to the table. And this gave me the idea to do the transformation from product to platform. The concept of creating a platform was actually giving our resellers all around the world, and even our end customers, the option to actually customize everything they want and be self-sufficient. And this is really scalable because this gives you now the option to actually now, push your product and everybody can customize it. Sometimes I'm amazed, I'm coming to my customers and they come and show me, look what we did. Look what we did with the platform we created. Look what we did for production. Look what we did for, for customers, for vendors, for suppliers. So I think now I think it was like selling itself, and it was like multiplying all the time. So
right. Now, at the time you developed this warehouse management system and some of the other functions like field services and some of the things you just described, had you sold your company to Priority by this point, or was Priority an investor, or were you just partnering with Priority to create that initial WMS product, that warehouse management system?
I was an ISV first, so
okay.
I was creating the product, but we're actually selling it as a Priority add-on, as a Priority product, and all the resellers around the world were actually selling it. And it gave us the opportunity to be more scalable because we're using the resellers to push those add-ons. And again, it gave you, let's say, the opportunity to go to places where you couldn't go before. Why? Because when we're competing against other ERPs, they said, every time they will go like, okay, we have the ERP, but if you want a WMS, we have a joint venture with this third party, or if you want a field service, so we have another joint venture with this third party. And we were coming with, the fully blown solutions and add-ons in one ERP system. And this was like the, let's say, major differentiator between all the other ERP systems.
Right. Yeah, very interesting. Now we have, just to turn to the audience for a moment, we have, thank you to everyone who dropped in the chat where they're joining from today. I see someone from Tampa, Florida, Denver, Colorado, Pretoria, South Africa, beautiful part of the world as well. Belgium, Antwerp, etc. So thank you for everyone for joining here today. And also have an audience question I think is worth getting to here as you talk about your journey here, Eyal. How did you harness others in your journey? It seems like all great entrepreneurs need a village of support. And this is from Kyler on LinkedIn. What are your thoughts there?
What do you mean by employees or by
customers? Both. I mean, who did, it sounds like Priority and partnering with Priority and being an ISV of Priority, that was maybe an early driver of growth, but how did you lean on employees or partners or mentors? I mean, who did you lean on or rely on the most as you started to gain traction and as you started to scale the company?
The moment you have a company, first you start out in your basement like a one-man show, and then you start hiring people. The thing I was telling at least people who are trying to hire was, I'm trying to use cutting edge technologies, bringing new innovation, bringing stuff that people failed before and haven't done this before. And this is how it actually attract, let's say, employees to work. And we're really, and it was a challenge, because there were like other major companies that were offering like better salaries and stuff like that. But I was telling them, it's like, think about it, it's like a startup. We're called the Startup Nation. So we're like, you have everything was like, we're meeting people. I mean, I was meeting my employees on a coffee break and say, you know what, I have an idea. What happened if we'll do this and this and this? And, everybody wants to code it. And after a few days, there's a new product or a new feature. And I think the success of the products, the concept that I was always trying to push to everybody was if it won't be simple, it simply won't be. And the concept is that I think if we brought applications to customers and they start working with no explanation, it was like an immediate onboarding. I think this is something that was very, let's say, genuine at the time. Nobody had it. All the ERP systems were very complicated. So harnessing the customers and the employees that were actually involved in everything, we're actually visiting the customers. So we talked about boots on the ground, that we have to go to see how the product works, to understand the real challenges in each company. And this what drove us and the customers and my employees to make, let's say, simplified products with the concept of, I mentioned, I think before, to you, the single screen application concept, giving you an app that you can do everything in one screen. For example, if you take the WMS system, think about it that you give something to the storekeeper. And there's like one field called barcode. And whenever he scans something in this field, doesn't matter, you can scan a batch number, a barcode number, a part number, a serial number, a pallet number, whatever. He can scan one thing and everything is automated. He doesn't need to think about it. And if he does, and it fills the relevant quantity, it jumps to the next item. If he finalizes the list, it jumps to the finalization stage. Everything is, in an ERP system, you ask a question, you get an answer. It's not leading you, you're leading the system. We took it to a totally different concept. We're leading the users to the job. It could be for the field service, it could be for the storekeepers, for the truck drivers. But I think the way we simplified stuff, this was like the magic that, behind the concept of soft solutions to make that brought the customers, the employees, and the resellers to actually sell it. It was an easy sell for them because it was an easy implementation. Go ahead.
No, that's super interesting. Now, when you look at the evolution of your company and then the acquisition by Priority, and you've been doing this now for what, about 25 years? You've sort of been in the tech space for maybe a little bit longer.
Even 30. 30 years. 28, let's say, something like that.
Okay. You and I are the exact same age, so I'm just trying to do the math here of what I think your experience level is. But I guess my question is, what has changed the most with technology? Or what tech trends have sort of, there's been a lot, in 25 to 30 years, a lot of different things that have come and gone, a lot of trends that have evolved and grown over time, other things that have sort of faded and fizzled out. What is it like? How would you assess some of the trends that most excite you, both in terms of development and the evolution of the technology space?
Okay, so this was a challenging, let's say, quest, because we started up, with Microsoft. We were doing .NET, and then smartphones came out. So we said, okay, we need now to go to Java and start creating mobile apps. And then we want to do, we went out from desktop to web. So we needed to do Angular back then. So we had multiple programmers doing multiple languages. And I was thinking, I need to find something that could be not only cross-platform, but cross-programmer too. And this led us to React and React Native. And we can have one platform for everybody to use and reuse. And then if you have like, you can balance between programmers because everybody is doing the same, working with the same language. And now, everybody's going to AI and data learning and analytics and stuff like that. So I think the next trends we're looking for is not only just doing cross programmers, is actually to innovate, find new technology you can merge with engines that you have out there, like ChatGPT, or if I'm doing like I just published a TMS system, uh, transportation management system, and we're not trying to invent the wheels. There's engines everywhere out there. So if I need an AI to optimize the route, I'm just consuming one of the SaaS services out there. And by the way, when I was looking for new things that I could do, I met with a few companies over here, some startup companies. One of them was actually doing the head display in helmets for helicopter pilots, and they actually minimized it to sunglasses. So I said, okay, this is cool. We can put this in the warehouse. But we tried it, and it said, okay, it's working, but there's a problem if someone wears glasses and stuff like that. So we're looking for more stuff. So the other stuff we found is something like with hands-free. We're always trying to look how to make simplified stuff. So I was looking at this hands-free technology. It's like you have a watch, and you have like a Spider-Man. It's like a barcode scanner with a video camera. So everything you do is you're like taking something, and it's actually taking a video of what you did. And then you can put AI system behind it for vision to see if you took the right thing and put it in the right place. And again, there's a lot of new trends that we're working on in priority now to create, new innovations. This is the concept. I think you have to win tenders, to win new customers. You always have to bring something new to the table. We just, I told you before, we're competing with a very big ERP system for a big prospect in Los Angeles. I was there like 2 months ago, and comparing an ERP to an ERP, it's very hard to win a tender because
right.
This is like apples to apples. The only way you can win is when you bring innovation. So what actually I focused over there was showing him the integrated WMS module, and I think the main focus was the simplicity of the app, not the brains behind the scenes, because this is what people are actually working in the warehouse. And the other thing is a very nice tool that we created was a portal generator. A portal generator, again, it's more innovation stuff, and it's new, I think, in the ERP tech. So it gives you the option to take any form in the ERP in a few minutes with no coding and generate a portal. And the portal is not for internal employees. It's for customers, it's for suppliers, it's for resale. So then now I showed them in a few minutes. So you have you saw the WMS system. Now you want your suppliers to upload the ASN, Advanced Shipment Notice. We can show them portal. We can do it in a few minutes. We want to put a television in the warehouse that shows the efficiency of all the employees. You can do it in a few minutes. You want to give them your customers now to create orders. One thing they had over there was they have sales reps, and to work in an ERP system, it's very, let's say, it's lean and mean. You open the sales order, you select items. They wanted an e-commerce, the shopping cart experience. So we took the portal generator. In a few minutes, we created a simplified user interface that gives them the option to create orders in the e-commerce style, in the shopping cart style. So again, all of these tools, brings you new opportunities. And again, when you're competing with other ERPs, this is, I think, what gives today priority the edge.
Right. Yeah, that's very, very interesting. This is a somewhat related question from YouTube. This is from Ori on YouTube, and Ori asks more of a sort of a career-focused question, but coming back to the tech trends question that I asked a moment ago. But where do you think the opportunities are in the ERP and or the warehouse management system space over the next 10 years from the perspective of a person relatively recent in his career looking to be positioned for success? So where are the biggest opportunities in the enterprise technology space in general?
Well, I think today in the ERP and the WMS, there's going to be a lot of work. There's still, everybody talking about automatic warehouses that, you're not going to rely anymore on people. But again, this is big. This is when you have big pallets. I don't see in the near future that robots or technologies are actually going to replace people for, specific picking. And I think there's going to be a lot of, combinations with AI. We are actually doing something new in AI with WMS. We have now a professor from the academy that we created something that does optimization for assigning tasks. So everything is going to be much more efficient. It's going to be much more optimized, but still there's going to be a lot of work in customizing the softwares and creating the add-ons. And we're going to we talked about the hands-free and the augmented reality with the glasses. and all kind of AI tools to show how to store, where to store where we have empty places, and how to replan and stuff like that. So I think for the next 10 years, it's going to be a lot of jobs, a lot of opportunities, but it's going to be combined with new technologies. We're going to leverage the new AI system, the new hardware system, the hands-free. So I don't see any decline in requests for programmers and implementers and people that actually need to do the real work, the boots on the ground jobs.
Right. Absolutely. And actually, you just triggered another question I had. I'll jump to it now. But the question I had for you is your sort of boots on the ground upbringing, as a mechanic working in the military. You probably have a different perspective than someone who maybe went the traditional route of college. Although to be clear, I think in Israel, isn't it mandatory that you spend 2 to 3 years in the military? So everyone does that regardless of whether they go to university or not. Is that correct, or is that misunderstood?
Yeah.
Okay.
The moment you finish high school, you go for 3 years. It's mandatory. I think now maybe it's 2.5 years, but back then when I was with 3 years, and only after that you go to college, and then you start find a job and climb the ladder.
Okay. So you bypassed the college part. You did the military part because you had to partially, and so you did the military part. You learned a little bit about technology, and then you sort of started your company and moved up from there. How did that initial sort of foundation of being a mechanic and having that boots on the ground experience, how did that affect, or did it affect your view of how to build a technology company and how to build technology to solve problems?
Well, basically, it's as I said before, trial and error. When you have to solve a problem, and me as a, let's say, company owner, I was the last person in the company that there's nobody in the hierarchy higher than me. So when I had a problem, I had to solve it. The moment I got a purchase order for a customer, that's it. If I knew the technology, I had to learn it, and failure was not an option. I have to bring the results. So trial and error. Reading books back. When we started, I think there was even Google was just starting up. There's no Chat GPT, so the only way to learn is trial and error. And actually, when you do trial and error and you figure something out, it sticks. It's not like Chat GPT. You get something, you get the final result. You actually really understand how things work in the back end, how things work behind, how the engine is built. And again, we're talking about engines. There's real engines, combustion engines, and there's technology engines. So at the end of the day, it's part of this is virtual, this is physical, but it's the same thing. If you know how it works, if you know how to disassemble it, you know how to solve bugs, and this gives you the opportunity to think out of the box. I think if you go to college, you're getting they're pushing the education is pushed to you. They're pushing you to a strict way of thinking. And when I had a problem, I always thought about it. Okay, how can I solve it? I didn't have any tools to solve it. The only way to solve it was to do trials and error to figure out the best way to solve it. And I think this gave me the flexibility to bring new stuff to the table. People, like I said, in hospitals, nobody solved the problem. How we can create an application that will serve all the departments. One database. When you have a totally different, orthopedic department is totally different than an internal department. Or an oncology department. So thinking out of the box brought me to bring this concept of questionnaires that gives the ability to create a CPR, EPR system for all hospitals, and everybody says, okay, this is exactly what I need. Because think about it, the head of a department builds his checklist, and then all the doctors that actually do the, when you're starting up as a doctor, you go through multiple departments, and each time he's working in the same system. And it's actually what the head of the department decided wants to show. And it's like, okay, this is my data. So people can rely, can connect. At the end of the day, I said the simplicity of stuff and making things, bringing them down from boots on the ground to see how actually people works. This is the sell. This is what actually brings people to work with the system, because it's something they can relate it. It looks like somebody thought of how they work in the warehouse, in the field, in the web. It's bringing the way ordinary people work, and not like some engineer that I think I know the best way to solve a problem, and they'll do it. Even I had a lot of time arguments with my programmers because they went the easy way. They couldn't solve a problem, so they solved it the easy way. I said, no, it's not going to work. It's not going to, if somebody needs to do too many clicks, go to too many menus, it's not going to work. We have to work harder as programmers to make it as simple as possible.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. What about now Priority Software and Soft Solutions combined are both sort of a tier 2 solution. And I don't want to get too caught up in definitions of the industry here, but a lot of times organizations will gravitate toward a tier 1 solution simply because they know the name. They know the name Microsoft, they know the name Oracle or SAP, and it's just a well-known brand. Doesn't mean it's any better or worse. It's better known. So a question from Ryan on LinkedIn is a good one, which is, how would you address a potential customer who is only considering tier 1 solutions, or maybe the household name solutions? Like, how do you overcome that in your world at Priority Software, especially knowing that you're big in Israel, you have a very dominant market share in Israel, but outside of Israel, some parts of the world, you're still trying to break into it and you're still trying to create that awareness. How do you address that? I mean, what's your message to a potential client who's only looking at the commonly known brand name software vendors?
I would go to the innovation part. What does it mean?
Right.
If I have a prospect, it'll take me an hour to show him not a presentation, a fully blown system with the portal generator, with the WMS, with TMS, with all the add-ons. It says, I need warehousing, I need a customer portal, I need a supplier portal, I have sales reps, I have field service, I have production floor. I'll come and show him something that says, this is not a presentation. I'll take his logos, his pictures, his color scheme, and it takes me an hour to actually, configure the system and show him something that works. And he sees it and he says, okay, wow, this is exactly what I want. And now the focus is how easy it's going to be implemented, how flexible, how it's going to be, how it can be self-sufficient with the system. And I think the other competitors, it's the brand name, but they'll always tell you, okay, they'll show them, they'll show presentations, PowerPoints, and then they'll say, okay, you need a portal, go to buy it from our third party, or we have a vendor that will do it for you. Or at the end of the day, we're talking to them and showing them that it actually works. It's not something that it's not a PowerPoint presentation. This is the system. This is how it looks. This is how it works. And let's do the whole flow and process. And this is the sale, because the customer says, okay, I have everything in one place. It's flexible. It's customizable. It's on the cloud, and that's it. I think most of the sales. I was in another, customer in the UK. I've been all around the world, trying to push our products, and we're competing with another major ERP in the UK. And he said, okay, I have like 750 field service people, and I need the option to work offline, and I need the option to work with questionnaires, and everything should be integrated. And the other company said, okay, we have the ERP, but this is our vendor for field service, for example. And we came and we showed him something. It's in Priority. We showed him. We took his data. We built his questionnaires. We showed how easy now to to take pictures, load data, fill the checklist. And this is what made the sale. We're not a brand name. They didn't hear about Priority before, but when we show them something that will actually work, it's a minimum risk. It's something it's going to work.
Right.
It's working already.
Right. So more of a, being able to find that or offer that flexibility and that customizable or that tailored solution for a potential client. Is that what you're saying? That's one of the big strengths that companies like yours bring to the table?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you're bringing something that you have one-stop shop, no integrations, most of a product, when you start doing integrations, there's always the problem of if now I need a change. So first of all, we're working with two different user interfaces, because we have one product for the ERP and another product for, WMS, field service, whatever. And now people need to work with two different user interfaces. Now we made a change in the ERP. We need to contact another vendor to make the change in his system, and then we need to fix the integration. So it's actually everything you're doing three times. Think about it, about the money, the time, putting things from doing QAs, going live here. It's a 2-minute thing. You have a change request, you do it once, and it's, if I go from the portal, if I go from the WMS system, I go from the field rep, or I go from, from production floor, it's using the same logic. And there's another very cool thing in Priority that can actually make it work. In Priority, we have two types of APIs, what we call REST API. This is just for data. Most of the ERP system has REST APIs that you can talk to the ERP system, but it's just data. It's not bringing the UI logic. Priority, we have what we call the Web SDK. Web SDK actually consumes the UI logic. So now Craig can create and take a different technology. Could be native iOS or Android, could be web, could be whatever, could be on a watch. And this will actually give me the logic. So if there is a rule in the ERP that I just created that gives me a warning, a message, sends an email, it will work immediately. Think about, for example, I have countries and cities. The moment I select a country, now it's limiting the cities for that country. When I'm working with a REST API, I have to rewrite in the front end the logic that the moment I read the country, now select the cities from the cities table. When I'm using Priority Web SDK, everything is reflected. So the moment I select the country, the control, the response that I'm getting back is already the city. So there is no logic on the front end. It means that you can actually build multiple front ends very easily, and no investment in in handling multiple logics. So it's really, really what we call single point of truth. This actually brought me, for me, when I had my own company, it was what path should I take? Should I put, all the eggs in one basket in Priority? Because the moment I put it in Priority, it means that I can only sell my products with Priority. It wouldn't work with any other. It's integrated into Priority. The easier way would say, okay, I'm just going to create my own third party and connect it to multiple ERPs. But then each time it's going to be an integration project. So the moment I went this way, it was a gamble. But this is what drove the test, and this would make Priority. Let's say I think it was very reasonable from their side too to do this acquisition, because it was actually the moment we have the whole scale of the company like Priority, and we're bringing this new technologies that will actually give better results for their end customers, bring innovation, bring the opportunity to to compete with other ERP systems, because we're bringing things that no other competitor has. Then again, it's a win-win. It's 1 + 1 = 3 in this situation.
Right. So as an entrepreneur, then, was it difficult for you to make that transition from being, because you've been an entrepreneur pretty much your whole career, a majority of your career, and then you sell your company to, presumably a bigger company. How does that change your life? Has it been difficult to adjust? What's it like? And I'm asking you not only because I'm interested because you're a founder, but I'm a founder too. And the thought of having to work for the man, sometimes that stresses me out. And I don't know if I would enjoy it, but that's just me personally. Yeah. I'm curious to hear how you adjusted to it.
Well, it's as I said, most of things, it's a challenge, because you're regulated. I was working like a startup. I was thinking, okay, I have an idea for a new product, and that's it. I'm running towards this product.
Do it right now.
Do this, do that. Now I have a product department, and I have a delivery department, and I have a DevOps and R&D department. So now when I think of something, I need to go through all the process it takes, bring people with me to sell them the idea. So it's a totally different way of thinking, because now we have to sell your ideas, to bring people to the table to actually, divide the job between them. You can't do anything. You can't take your own decisions now, because now it's a team. It's like you have to become a team player. So it was challenging, but I think we overcome it. Even when I was acquired by Priority a year and a half ago, I had a earnout of 2 years. So what happened after a year? So I was still managing soft solutions, but after a year, I already hit the maximum earnout I can get. So I finished everything a year early. So now I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do now? What's the next job? What's my next title? So as I'm coming to Sagiv, the CEO, and I said, okay, what should I do now? I'm doing a lot of stuff, but what is my focus? And he said, continue to do what you're doing. And I said, no, I need some focus. I need something to do. We said, so what do you like to do? What do you think you can do? And I said, what I like to do? I like to find problems in companies and customers, and I like to bring technology together with the problem and bring something to the market. I know R&D, and I have and I know business, and I know priority, and I think the next thing, the logical thing to do in priority is to do innovation, and find new technology partners and bring them up to speed to the technology. Even when I find technology partners, it's a learning curve for them. So I think I can shorten the path, and if you can, and can bring this new technology partners, it's a win-win again. You're bringing them. You have the scale of all the tens of thousands of customers we have for priority, and then if we're bringing them to the table with this new technology, potentially they can make a lot of money, and again, it's a win-win. So. Right. So what I'm going to do, I think, from now on is innovation and business development.
Yeah, and I think you use the word innovation a lot here, which is appropriate, because I think it's really interesting to hear how you view technology enablement. You're doing it by finding the problem first, and then figuring out how can technology solve it. Whereas I think a lot of software companies, especially the bigger ones, I think they get caught up and stuck in their own echo chamber of what's right and what's wrong technologically, and sort of like what their philosophy is of technology in general. And they start with the technology, and then they go to the market and try and sell it and sort of try and force it on the industry. And I think what you're saying is you're leading with what's the customer problem, how can I solve it, and then how can I sell it internally within priority to productize that potential solution, which is different. I mean, it sounds easy enough, it sounds simple enough, but I don't think most software companies do that, especially the bigger ones. I think they do the opposite. They start with the technology, then they figure out how they're going to go sell it.
Yeah, I go to the problem, and I say, okay, this is a problem that hasn't been solved today, and I think I can solve it. And if I can solve it, there's a new market. And this is I think I have one of my customers in this is an electronics company, and they called me. Each time I come over there, they call me like the dream maker. Why? Because each time they have a problem. They had this problem. I said, we're working with a lot of attachments. We're using Outlook, but it's very complicated to connect them to the ERP system. Could you solve this problem? Could you connect Outlook directly to the ERP system and the file system to our ERP priority, actually? And I said, give me a day and two. And after I solved it, it said, you don't know the difference you did for the people working, in import and export and engineering. Now they can scan directly from Outlook, connected directly to priority with, and again, it's something that was very problematic. You got an email, you had to save it, you had to go back to the document priority, you have to upload it. Now with one click, remember, single screen application, one click, and that's it. So we have this concept running with the WMS, we have this concept with the document management, we have this concept with the TMS. We just created this TMS add-on. So you can see the planning, you can see the map, you can see the trucks by dragging and dropping. Now you can see the whole route is building. You can see the mileage. You can see what time you're going to reach each customer. So, and everything you do is one screen. So this is all these concepts of, simplifying stuff, bringing it to people, and coming from the problem, not coming from the solution, not thinking, okay, I'm an engineer, I think there's a problem, this is how I'm going to solve it, and then I'm going to come to the market. Here, this is the product, I think it should work.
Right.
It's the other way around.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's well said, and that's an important thing to think about for those of you that are listening that might be trying to evaluate potential software vendors. I think that's a thing you have to look at is it a company that's focused on you and the solutions focused on you as an organization, or is it focused on them, the technology itself? And that's an important question to ask. What about career development? I want to maybe shift gears and talk about you looking back on your 25 to 30 years as an entrepreneur and working in the technology space. What career advice would you have for someone who's just starting out in the technology space today? What would you impart upon them? Words of wisdom, things you did well that you would do again, and maybe things you didn't do well, or maybe you screwed up and you wish you would have done differently. What sort of advice would you give someone who's just starting out?
First of all, there's no risk. It's not like you're opening a company and you have to buy inventory and you have to pay payrolls. You're just sitting by yourself in your basement or whatever. You don't pay rent. You're probably living in your parents' house or whatever, or you're in a minimum costs. So you can take any job you can, and the moment you're committed, there's no option for failure. If you get a purchase order for someone, you need to deliver. And this is actually what drives me. I'm looking at I have my 3 children now. So one of my child is learning Java, and it's very to try to learn something to solve a problem that it's like a mathematical problem. Something it's very boring. You have to have something. You have a goal. So a goal is you have a customer and said, you know what, I'm gonna prevail. I'm gonna bring something that will work. And this is what drove me. When you have a goal, I think. And the only thing you can lose is your hours that you're spending. No risk. You have a goal. If it works, you're going to make money. If you're talented, you're going to make a lot of money. So Don't give up. I think, and this is something I can tell. I think to all the parents out there, don't give up on your teens. I was the black sheep in my company, and in my family.
Right.
I have, by the way, an identical twin brother. His name is Eric too. And he went, by yesterday he has a PhD in computer science. So he went the standard route. And now he's a CTO of a company. But again, it was a long route, and it's going to take him a long time to, hit his earnout, or I don't know, or the way of the retirement is going to be a long path that needs to take. So if you have the skills, if you have the patience, I think give it a try. And if you're not doing well in school, it doesn't mean anything. Maybe you have, if you could. For me, I'm like an autodidact. I like to learn by myself. I think this is the best way to learn. You have your own. You can, you have your own time, your own system. Just read the book, give it a try, and start as soon as possible. Jumping into the water. Start coding as soon as possible, because this is the only way. And when there's a goal, I don't think that you can miss.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you and your brother had such different views and approaches as it relates to traditional paths in education and things like that. You going straight from military to entrepreneurship, and then him kind of going the PhD route. That's an interesting contrast in approaches. Not that either one's better than the other necessarily, but certainly you've got to do what's best for you and what kind of fits your goals. But you mentioned something that's even more important, which is kind of have that end state in mind of what it is you want to do. Like, in other words, your son, he's not learning Java just to learn Java. He's learning Java because he's got some other end state in mind of how he might apply Java to his career going forward. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, he's looking at me and he says, he's telling my wife, why do I need to study? Look at Dad. And I think this is bad advice. This is bad advice for children. But I think everybody wants to do fast money. So I think this is the only way I can think of a shortcut. If you want to do a shortcut, you have to set your goals. If you have someone who's actually going to pay for your time, it's even better, because this is going to what's going to push you forward. And what can you lose? What is the risk? It's not like you're taking a loan from the bank to you buy inventory or rent some place. I think this is the best route you can go. Right. Nothing to lose, and the only worst case scenario, you'll succeed.
Right. That's a good way to look at it. So I think you alluded to this a little bit a few minutes ago when you were talking about innovation and how you went to your CEO and said, what's next for me? How do I fit into this company going forward? And he told you, continue to do innovation and business development. What do you see beyond that? Is there anything else that you see next for your career and for the company? Anything that's sort of like on the horizon that you want to accomplish or that you're striving towards going forward?
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of new products now all the time. I was thinking of something that is more like, everybody's looking today at graphs and charts and numbers. And now we're thinking of building a new kind of generator. We're talking about platforms. So we build, we have the WMS as a platform. We have the app generator. We have the portal generator that is a very cool tool. But now we're thinking about something as like a visual generator. Think about it. You can take any picture that you want, upload a scheme of something, upload, the production floor of machines, upload a map of something, and create like rules of traffic lights rules, and then combine them together and change the way we look at things. Today we look at graphs and charts, and it's you have to drill down. It's very boring. It's very, let's say, it's something that it's hard to grasp if you don't know. And if you see something that is very visual, I think this is the next thing I want to try in priority, how to make this visual generator that you can build rules and upload, specs, schemes, pictures, whatever, and combine them together. And of course, there's a lot of things I told her that I was doing with the AI, with hands-free that I'm trying to find it, from the glasses to the watch to AI with the video stuff. So there's a lot of things every day. I know when I do a tour with the customers, they say, you know what, we really miss something that could do this or could do that. And you start thinking, how could you solve this problem? How could you bring new innovation to the, to priority or to the customers?
Right. Well, that's cool to think about, how on one hand, you have a more structured process that you have to go through being part of a bigger company that you described before, the R&D department and the business development and the finance department. Everyone sort of needs to get aligned with whatever investments you might be making from a point of innovation. But the good news is now you've got more scale. You can take these ideas and you've got more resources behind you. You can scale it up faster potentially because you've got a whole company behind you and an ISV network or ecosystem behind you. So that's kind of exciting to really maybe think to another level that maybe you weren't able to before because you were more focused on solving an immediate problem to bring home an immediate paycheck or an immediate revenue, whereas now you can think longer term. Do you find that shift is happening, in the last year and a half since you've become part of a bigger company, or am I off base there?
It is happening. I mean, only now because at least half a year ago, I was still managing soft solutions inside Priority. Now that I'm starting to deal with innovation, another thing in Priority is M&A. I think we acquired 6 companies in the last 2 years, and when you start to meet with startup companies that has new patents or innovation stuff. If it's something that is really interesting, then you have the scale behind you to actually acquire them in this seed stage, or actually invest in them to bring and to leverage this new technology or this new AI thing that now we're looking into. So, of course, this is the power of scale. At the end of the day, you have the people, you have the money, and you have the opportunity to actually go and look for new interesting stuff. And there's a lot of out there. I mean, in Israel, there are, I think, tens of thousands of startup companies that have. You just need to find the right one, something that can actually. It's not bring immediately something to the market that can affect, I don't know, either purchasing or warehousing or trucks or even things that prediction and stuff like that. So you just need to look for it. It's over there. It's already out there.
Right. Now, how do people learn more about Priority Software? If those listening that weren't familiar with Priority before today, maybe they're evaluating potential options or researching potential software options for their organizations, how can they learn more about Priority Software? What's the best way?
I guess a website. You have a lot of stuff over there. We have, I think, a lot of YouTubes. We have a lot of webinars. And it depends, if you're looking for something specific, there's a lot of, it's divided to industries and it's divided to modules. So if you're interested in something, you could just go to the website and even, drop an email or something, and we're more than happy to demonstrate. And it's going to be a live demonstration, not a PowerPoint presentation. Say, right. I have a company, I want to solve something. No worries. You're going to see something that you're going to see the result already.
Wait a minute. I have to stop you though for a second, Eyal. Are you saying that some software vendors use PowerPoint for their demos? Surely that can't be true. I'm kidding, but
it is true. Believe me.
I know. Yeah, I've seen many of those. It's funny how that works, right? And at some point you have to see the real software. So that's a good point.
But even when you see the real software, it's not, they didn't take the time to actually take the process and generate something that, resembles how they actually work. And I said, because we have this, I talked about the portal generator. We have this thing to make it look like your own portal. Like the ERP looks like, with your color schemes and pictures and logo and everything. So it looks like something that it was generated, built from the ground up for your needs. And again, this is what that makes it sell. People can connect to something that they know, that they're familiar with. It's not just the, boring ERP screens. It's something that looks like something that was built from the ground up for them.
Right. Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Eyal. Really appreciate your time and a very interesting story. And this is your first time on the show and really appreciate having you on and love to have you again. So thank you for being here.
It's the first time ever, by the way.
Well, good. Well, you're a natural at it. You're a pro. So you seem to know what you're doing here in the live podcast format. So thank you for that. And thank you for the audience questions too. Thank you everyone for being here. You're part of the live production of our podcast by being here today. So thank you for that. We're going to use this interview clip. We're going to edit it, polish it, add more content to it, and that'll become part of the episode of Transformation Ground Control that comes out next week, a week from Wednesday. You can find that there. You can go to transformationgroundcontrol.com to listen to or watch the episodes that we've done so far. Again, it's called Transformation Ground Control at transformationgroundcontrol.com, and that aggregates all the different formats that you can listen or watch if you just go to that one website. So be sure to check that out. So thank you again, everyone, for being here today. Really appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing you next week where we do the same time, same place, same sort of discussion, different guest. But thank you all for being here, and we'll hope you have a great week, and we will see you all soon.